In this episode, I try my hardest to reunite the new front I-beam axle and the rat rod radio flyer. Guys, welcome back to the channel, but if this is your first time, my name's Grant Tommy. This is my channel, Straight Six Fan. I'm an aspiring car builder who focuses on relatable, budget-minded, and creative builds, automotive builds, a little thing I like to call offbeat hot rodding. But today we are back on the rat rod radio flyer, and this is actually hopefully a 2-day garage session. Today, Saturday, June 23rd, I think it is. I gotta be honest, here in Kansas, like, it's only in the 80s. This is unheard of for this time of year, so loving the cooler weather. But today we are sort of trying to mock up the front I-beam axle on the rat rod radio flyer. We got some mock-up things to do, things to check for clearances. I'll leave a link in maybe a card somewhere in this region for the last episode that we did a mock-up. But if you watched last week, we got the I-beam all welded up, so it's all done. I can finally try to get these two back together, but I'm going to take you on a quick spin around and show you kind of what we're up against at the moment. Okay, today, Saturday, I was hoping to weld the axle to the chassis, but there are a number of things I got to be looking out for. So, we don't have the spindles done. We don't have the linkage done. We don't have the torque averter all the way on. Now, however, I do believe this is going to represent my furthest out point. Yes, I will have some another pulley here, but I don't know that I necessarily have to hook that all up to kind of know what clearances we have. But what I'm looking out for, of course, is if when I turn this at full lock, am I going to be hitting anything? And again, I think I don't have anything to worry about there. But in turn, the linkage. This is awfully close to the motor, and so there's some stuff I gotta think through there. So I think what actually makes more sense is for me to spend first amount of my time working on welding these spindles together. I'm pretty happy with like what this is ride height wise, but I need to get these spindles on, and in that way I can put both tires on, and that'll allow me to move this I-beam in this direction, back and forth, to make sure I figure out what works best for the linkage. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean the linkage right now has to be this long. This is what it was on my old setup. It worked fine on my old setup. But if you're familiar with the Ackerman principle, I went through that a little bit on a previous episode way back in probably March, I think it was. We'll do another card if that doesn't make sense. Maybe the card goes over there. Whatever. I'll put a card in there as well. But that's where this kicked back 10 degrees comes from. I've got to work in another 10 degree offset on these guys. Now I'm going to be cutting this off. So that way, when the wheels are straight, these are straight up and down. Okay? As I rotate it, then it helps kick up, like, it helps pick up one of the back tires as I'm turning. So, because I basically have a posi track back there. But part of the Ackerman principle is these guys, these linkages, when I am straight dead on, you want these to point back towards the center line of the back of the vehicle, or the center line of the back axle. So, again, that's where my value is going to be in welding up the spindles first, because that's going to let me roll this roll the I-beam back and forth to place it in the right spot. And then once I have this centered, maybe these get shorter, you know, I don't know. But maybe it just makes sense to leave them as they are. Because, you know, if these are pointed in towards each other on both sides a little bit, my old linkage is going to be a little bit too long because they used to be 90 degrees. So anyway, to get the same effect, if these are in, like, I think you can make bigger moves with this shorter throw, which in a sense doesn't make sense, but because we're already starting here or so when we're going straight, that I just think that might buy me some more space. So anyway, let's get to welding those spindles up. Alright, so in my little town, the best thing that's happened in a while has been an Ace Hardware. We have a grocery store, okay, that kind of got bought out, I don't know, a year and a half ago, and they built into it a little Ace Hardware, and so it's a little hardware store inside the grocery store, and you just go to the checkout at the grocery store. So pretty slick deal. Brothers Market, I think it's Iowa based, but anyway, so I go there to buy some stuff because now we're going to focus on spindles. So I needed some sort of a collar for the wheel, I needed some washers, and I needed a bolt, you know, so, and we'll show you that here in a bit. With the wheel, but I walk in, and of course the first person to help me is a high school kid, and he's like, well, I said, just point me in the direction of your nuts and bolts center, and he's like, well, what kind of bolt are you after? And I'm just like, just point, you know, I'm thinking, just point me in the direction of nuts and bolts center, right? Well, anyway, he walks me back there. Well, then, like, an older high school, or freshly out of high school, maybe he's a couple of years removed from high school kid, kind of overhears that, and he comes over, and he's all hot to trot and wants to, like, prove he knows so much, right? And he's just like, what are you looking for? And I'm like, 5/8 inch bolt. Sure, it's 5/8? And his coworker's like, yeah, we just measured it. And me and the first kid had just figured out, oh, I needed a coarse thread bolt, or I mean fine thread, not coarse thread. So I'm starting to look through the little boxes to see where it says fine thread, and this guy's like, yeah, you sure about that? You know, so the guy's like, you sure about that? I'm like, yeah, we just figured that out, and he just like holds his hand out and wants my bolt, right? So I give it to him, and he picks out a coarse thread, and I'm thinking to myself, like, dude, if you cross thread that, I'm gonna be so, you know, but I don't say anything. Of course, he gets like quarter turn on and doesn't go any further. So I'm like, yeah, we need fine thread, you know, and then he's just all like, it's just his attitude. I mean, did the guy probably know more than I did when I was his age? Yeah, probably. But, like, he wasn't being helpful. And, you know, then the next question is, and then he's, like, trying to, like, tell me how this system works. Okay, like I don't know, you know? And, I mean, I don't know. Well, then I'm asking if they sell any sort of, like tubing or something, because I needed to make a sleeve for this, right? Well, then he says, well, what about some sort of something bushing? I didn't recognize the name, and I'm like, yeah, I'll trust. You know, at this point, I'm like, I will trust you that you probably know what you're talking about, and I don't. And this, well, then he shows me what those are, and they're made out of brass, and I'm like, oh, well, you know, I don't. You got anything else? And I see over a couple drawers over, there's these steel spacers, right? Like, well, I think I'll probably do, you know what, these steel spacers will probably work just as well, and I'll need to do that because I don't want to weld bronze. And he's like, yeah, you're not going to want to do that. I'm like, yeah, that's what I just told you. Like, anyway, sorry for the rant, but this is the next step in the project. Fortunately, unfortunately, I don't know what you want to say. I'm not going to be doing any more work, really, today, other than cutting off the head. I can't do any more work today because, well, let's go show you why. Okay, so the reason why is a number of weeks ago I bought this 5/8 inch Forstner bit because I was going to chuck it up in my drill press, and I was going to tilt my table to the 10 degrees, and then we were going to drill press out the 5/8 of an inch, because that's the same size as my spindle. But instead, what I was looking for at the time was more like a hole saw, because I think that would work better. Carbide hole saw to do the 5/8 inch. And when I was at the hardware store, a different hardware store last weekend, I found one. So I was too chicken to pull the trigger on that then, just because I wanted to make sure, after looking at all this stuff, that was going to be the right decision, and I think it's going to be. So tomorrow I will go buy that. So today I think I'm just going to cut these off, be ready for tomorrow. I might figure out like the proper length with my sleeve and stuff, and maybe weld my sleeve to that, so then I know where to drill press out the 5/8 inch diameter, because when I do that, that's going to make that easier to weld, you know, do this number wherever this wants to be. So so we'll do that today. So not a whole lot here to get accomplished on Saturday, but it's good because now I've spun my wheels here on Saturday to where I can have everything lined up in place to make some good time tomorrow and Sunday. Alright, so I've got the bolt heads cut off, spacer on, and nut and washer. And honestly, I think at the moment, just kind of naturally, I think that spacer size that it is, I think is going to be just about right for keeping it off of the spindle. We'll see. I might cut it down a little bit, but I think it's pretty close. So anyway, that's going to do it for today. We will see where we pick up tomorrow. Alright guys, we're back and it is Sunday. You can see I've changed. So I'm wearing both t-shirts. Again, if you guys want a t-shirt, if you think these are cool, link in the description below. You can pick one up with the white or the black pistons like I had on yesterday. So it is probably like 1:30, 1:45 in the afternoon, and I'm just getting started, which is a little later than I wanted. But my wife and I had a really efficient morning. We got church, a little bit of shopping, and a workout in, and then back home because we go about a 20-minute drive to do the workout to the gym from our little town, and we were back by like 11:15. So pretty good morning. But I also am smoking a brisket on the big green egg in the backyard right now, so that's another reason why it took so long. But I did pick up the hole saw I wanted, and let's get going. Alright, so I've cut an additional amount of material off of spindle, axle, whatever we want to call it. So I marked out, scribed out 5/16 of an inch beyond where I'd scribed where the sleeve goes. And then I'll take you over to the drill press and I'll show you the reason why I did what I did after I get to cutting the second one. First things first, after chucking up the new hole saw, I got my digital angle finder out to set the platform at a 10-degree offset. Then I cut out some angle iron and got crazy with the clamps so I could clamp in that spindle, and we could hole saw it. The 5/16, of course, is half of 5/8 of an inch, which is the diameter of the spindle as well as the hole saw. So that was a failure. And a lot of you guys are probably thinking to yourself, well, I could have told you that because that's a wood hole saw and you're trying to cut steel. So yeah, I knew that going in, but I thought if I went slow enough, that would take care of itself. But then the other issue was, and this is more from yesterday, I started to notice my motor was kind of wiggling a bit, but it's busted off its little mounting bracket, and so now I gotta fix that before I go any further. So that's disappointing, but hey, that's, I guess, casualty of war, right? And price of doing business. So we'll see if we can't figure out another way. At least, you know, I like leaving this chucked up because what I was able to do is kind of use my scribe to go around the hole saw to help me figure out sort of the cutting angle here. So we'll see. We'll try to see if we can't figure something else out. Alright, so the plasma cutter, that was a little bit of a morale booster. So I think what I'm going to do, since I got them roughly shaped, that guy's still hot. Whew. Let's see what it is. A little bit. So now that I got the rough shape, I don't know how close this is, but I figured this is close enough for me to just fine tune it with my my deburring tool set. And so I think what I'm going to do next outing is we're going to just lay my axle here on the table like so, but all squared up in a way, and I can, with talk, I'll draw on my table, and that way I can be really precise about things, and then I can sort of jig up these spindles on their corresponding piece as I fine tune. Here we go. So I can just get the deburring tool and kind of just slowly go at it and get to a point where then I can, with all my marks and stuff, I can have this pretty precise from side to side, and so that way they match. So anyway, not as much work as I wanted to get done this weekend, but still I think it was a pretty fruitful weekend. Figured a lot of stuff out. That's going to do it for this show. Reminder, I know I already said it once, but if you want a shirt, link in the description below to my Spreadshirt store. But that'll do it for this time, and until next time, peace out.